time for the Disruptors, and George Tsilis is here every day with the Disruptor Senior Markets Correspondent, checking out First Solar. I see an upgrade here from JPMorgan, and we had another solar CEO on recently and talked about all the potential for solar. It seems like it's been just forgotten a bit, and maybe it's reemerging. I don't know. You tell us.
Well, yeah, I think you're onto something there. I think you're looking at a stock that's been struggling as of the past few months or so, but it may be reemerging because if you consider what's going on in the solar space, one, there's a big carry through from the Inflation Reduction Act, which was from last year, summer of last year. But at the same time, we've got fiscal year 24 budget resolution that's in place for 6 weeks until November 15th, and until then, we have some questions about whether the next year's budget will include additional tax subsidies and, of course, credits for solar companies. But First Solar, I think, is performing well relative to some of the respective peers because it's a company that's really focused more on the commercial and industrial side of the solar market versus the residential one. And I think if you look at the scalability that's involved in utilities, which are now deploying solar arrays for electric power production, but at the same time, solar farms. So these are scalable operations which have benefited quite nicely because of government stimulus, but also, of course, based on the secular trends in the transition towards electric use in terms of solar energy use, and of course, electric vehicles. And I think overall, if you look at the divergence between some of the other solar names we've actually covered, like SunPower or even Sunrun, you can actually see First Solar has been performing quite well relative to those other ones because of the fact that it's more concentrated in the industrial and commercial space. And I think when you look at JPMorgan, they're looking for a company here that has some pretty good earnings growth relative to its forward multiple. The estimates for earnings are about 40% growth year over year going into 2024. The stock is only trading around 17 times forward earnings, so it's trading at a discount relative to its growth. But at the same time, I think there's some concerns about what's going on next year in terms of the budget, which again hasn't been clarified just yet. So I think this is one of the reasons why they increased their rating on the stock to outperform, but they adjusted their price target from 239 down to 220. So I think they're being a little bit more conservative here, contingent upon some of the elements behind the fiscal year 24 budget, which hasn't been resolved as of yet.
Yeah. So if it tilts to risk reward favorably at this point, and this is what the analyst is saying, I saw some concerns about the money that the company is spending or losing is a better way to say it. So there's back and forth when you read the analyst reports. Some seem to be more positive than others. First Solar today at 152 and change. Tell us about an example trade, George.
Yeah. So I think the stock is going to be kind of drifting, if you will, until there's some resolution, Nicole, or maybe into Q1 or Q2 of next year. So I'm not going to be aggressive here. We're going to be a little more conservative. So what we can do is go out to November with about 30 days to expiration and sell cash secure put. So effectively, in the month of November, selling the 140 put, you could sell that for about $5 a share or $500 in credit. And so that strike price is, of course, below the current price by about $12 or so, but you have about $17 of flexibility down to the 135 before you hit break even, and that's about 11% give back relative to the current price before you're at risk of losses in this trade. But by placing this, you have to be willing and able to take on ownership if the stock does hit 140 or lower between now and expiration, because 140 is essentially the assignment price, but your purchase price net of the credit you receive is 135.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for all of that. A good look today at First Solar. 1 year up 25%, but as you noted, hitting that high in May of 232, and it's been to the downside. So good trade for us, example trade there. George Tsilis, we appreciate it. Thank you.